The Marshals Season 2 trailer just confirmed what every fan of this show has been dreading since the final seconds of the Season 1 finale. Does Dolly Weaver know what her father has done? And has she been using Kayce Dutton from the beginning? Will Cal and Belle survive the ambush that Tom Weaver's men left them in? And does the trailer's deliberate silence on that question mean the show is preparing to do something fans are not ready for? Who is the suited man holding a gun to Kayce's head in his own cabin, and what does the fact that he's already inside East Camp tell fans about how completely Tom Weaver has compromised Kayce's world? And with Tate in Texas and the Dutton Ranch and Marshals universe now pointing at the same state, is the crossover that every Yellowstone fan has wanted since both finales dropped no longer a theory, but a production reality? Every one of those questions has an answer in this trailer, and this breakdown covers all of them. And if this is the Marshals and Yellowstone Universe content fans want on the feed every week, hitting subscribe and the like button is how the algorithm delivers it before anyone else does. The single most important image in the Marshals Season 2 trailer is not Kayce on horseback flipping a car with a rifle, or Thomas Rainwater's voiceover warning that no one escapes death and violence. It is Dolly Weaver held at gunpoint, and the fact that the gunman holding her is almost certainly working for her own father. The trailer places Dolly in a position of genuine physical danger alongside Kayce, both of them at the wrong end of a weapon, pointed by someone who clearly considers them a shared problem. That image does more narrative work in under 2 seconds than most trailers manage in 2 minutes, because it answers the single most contested question in the Marshals fan community, with the specificity of a visual statement rather than a dialogue line. Dolly Weaver did not know. She is not a plant. She is not a willing instrument of Tom Weaver's operation against Kayce and Thomas Rainwater and East Camp. She is leverage, or she is collateral, and in either reading, the relationship she built with Kayce across Season 1 just became considerably more complicated, considerably more dangerous, and considerably more important to the emotional architecture of what Season 2 needs to deliver. The hope embedded in this image, and it is real, and it is earned, is that the show has constructed something more painful than a betrayal. A betrayal would have been dramatically simple. Dolly knowing, Dolly lying, Dolly being revealed as the villain's instrument, and Kayce walking away. The show could have done that. The trailer suggests it chose not to. What the trailer appears to be building instead is a scenario in which Dolly's innocence is confirmed at the exact moment it becomes the most dangerous thing Kayce has ever tried to protect. Because protecting Dolly from Tom Weaver means going to war with the man who has Tate, who killed Garrett, who burned the barn, who tried to kill Thomas Rainwater, who put Pete and Belle in front of gunmen, a man who has already demonstrated that he will hurt anyone Kayce loves without hesitation and without remorse. However, unfortunately, Kayce cannot protect Dolly, rescue Tate, keep Cal and Belle alive, and bring Tom Weaver down simultaneously with the resources of a Montana Marshal's office. Something is going to give. The trailer does not tell fans which thing. That is the most specific and terrifying promise the footage makes. The most likely explanation for who the suited man in Kayce's cabin represents is that Tom Weaver's operation runs considerably deeper than a single rancher trying to expand his land holdings through violence. The evidence is visible in the trailer's specific framing of that scene. The man is not dressed like a hired hand. He is not dressed like a local. He is dressed like the money behind the money, the layer of the operation that sits above Tom Weaver, the same way Tom Weaver sat above Jeb the foreman when the orders were passed down to set up Pete and Belle's ambush. His opening line, "I've heard stories about the Duttons," is not a rancher's provocation. It is a Wall Street provocation, the kind of thing someone says when they have done due diligence on an asset and consider that due diligence sufficient to give them an advantage. Kayce's reply, "The fact that you're doing this tells me you haven't heard them all," is the most succinct possible summary of everything Kayce Dutton has been building toward since the series began, the moment where the Yellowstone legacy stops being a burden and becomes a weapon. And what the trailer reveals in the fight sequence that follows is that whoever sent this man to Kayce's cabin made a calculation that was wrong in the most painful way possible for everyone involved. The most logical conclusion from the introduction of Michael Cudlitz's Randall Clegg as a new antagonist alongside Tom Weaver is that Season 2 operates on a two-front threat. Weaver is the personal enemy, Clegg is the systemic one, and they may not even know each other. However, unfortunately for Kayce, both fronts are going to require a version of him that the badge on his chest is not officially authorized to be. The evidence strongly suggests that Cal and Belle's conspicuous absence from the Marshals Season 2 trailer is not an accident of editing, but the most deliberate storytelling choice the show's promotional team could have made. Logan Marshall Green confirmed to Screen Rant in the closing days of May 2026, as Season 2 entered production, that Cal survives the ambush, but added the specific qualifier that his character is not necessarily unscathed, a phrase that in Yellowstone Universe terms almost always means permanent damage rather than temporary injury. Cal's cancer diagnosis was already in play before the ambush. The question the trailer is refusing to answer is whether Pete Calvin emerges from a gunfight with Tom Weaver's hired men at the same time as he is trying to survive his own body. Ariel Kebble confirmed separately that Season 2 picks up directly from the ambush moment, which means the premiere episode is going to deliver the answer fans have been sitting with since May. The deliberate withholding of both characters from the trailer is the promotional version of a Season 1 structural choice the show made well. The show does not want fans to know whether they are watching a recovery or a funeral until the episode is already playing. Every fan who has been refreshing trailers, hoping for a glimpse of Cal or Belle alive and healthy, has been receiving the same message in the refusal to give them that glimpse. The absence is the information. However, unfortunately, that information cuts in both directions, and the show knows it. The evidence strongly suggests that the Andrea Cruz storyline in Season 2 is not simply a romantic complication, but a structural mechanism for delivering the truth about Tom Weaver to Kayce through channels he trusts completely. Season 1 established a specific dynamic between Kayce and Andrea. She suspected the worst about the Dutton family's methods, while simultaneously being drawn toward Kayce's particular version of lawman integrity. The trailer confirms Andrea is back in uniform, having turned down the Washington, D.C. position that the Season 1 finale offered her, and the fan community's read on that return has been consistent and pointed. Andrea came back because she is not done following the evidence. The most widely circulated theory across Marshals Reddit and fan communities holds that Andrea will be the one to trace the financial thread from the Rainwater assassination attempt back to Tom Weaver's network, and that she will bring that evidence to Kayce at the precise moment when Kayce believes he is building something with Dolly. The intersection of those two events, Andrea carrying the proof that Dolly's father is the architect of everything Kayce has lost this year, and delivering it to a man who has finally let himself feel something again, is the kind of scene the Yellowstone Universe does better than almost any franchise on television. Fans believe this is the pivot on which the entire season turns, and the structure of what the trailer shows supports it completely. While the trailer's main attention is fixed on Kayce's collision with Tom Weaver and Randall Clegg, there is another storyline developing quietly in the background that every Marshals fan needs to be tracking before Season 2 premieres, and it belongs entirely to Thomas Rainwater. Gil Birmingham's appearance in the Season 2 trailer, delivering the voiceover about death and violence, is not a passive narrative choice. Rainwater spent Season 1 as the target of an assassination conspiracy that Kayce's team spent the back half of the season scrambling to untangle. The attempt on Rainwater's life was not random, it was part of Tom Weaver's land strategy. Rainwater's influence over Broken Rock and his relationship with East Camp represented the political obstacle to Weaver's expansion that money alone could not remove. Season 2, with Weaver now unmasked to the audience but not yet to Kayce, appears to be building Rainwater into an active participant in the investigation rather than a protected witness, and the specific gravity of Birmingham's voiceover in the trailer suggests the show understands that Rainwater's presence elevates every scene it touches. The fan theory that has the most traction on this front holds that Rainwater will discover Tom Weaver's identity through Broken Rock channels before Kayce does, and that the question of whether Rainwater acts on that information before or after informing Kayce becomes a fault line in the most important relationship the show has outside of Kayce's direct family. However, unfortunately, a Rainwater who moves first is operating in exactly the gray space that Tom Weaver has been setting up all along. What makes the Marshals Season 2 trailer the most important piece of Yellowstone Universe promotional material released since Dutton Ranch's Season 1 finale is the specific geography it confirms, without ever saying the words. Tate Dutton is in Texas. Tom Weaver put him there. Beth and Rip are in Texas. Carter Green was taken by Mariano's cartel in Texas. The state of Texas is now simultaneously the location of 2 kidnapped boys from the same extended Dutton family, 2 separate sets of parents operating in crisis mode, and 2 shows whose showrunners, Benjamin Cavell and Spencer Hudnut, are SEAL Team alumni who have been in the same writer's room and know how to build a crossover that serves both stories rather than cannibalizing either. Kelly Riley laughed and said, "Maybe," when asked if the matching kidnapping cliffhangers were coordinated. Luke Grimes told interviewers that Kayce's natural instinct is to reach out to every trusted person in his network when Tate is threatened. The network of people Kayce trusts, who are currently operational in Texas, is not a short list. Fans believe the Dutton Ranch and Marshals crossover is no longer a theory, but a production reality, being held back from the trailers intentionally, and the absence of any Texas footage in the Marshals Season 2 teaser is the same deliberate withholding strategy the show applied to Cal and Belle. The absence is the information. After everything the Marshals Season 2 trailer has revealed, Dolly's innocence confirmed by her own vulnerability, Cal and Belle's fates deliberately withheld, the suited man in Kayce's cabin, signaling a conspiracy that goes above Tom Weaver, Andrea Cruz back in uniform and almost certainly carrying the truth, Thomas Rainwater's elevated role, and the Texas geography that makes the Dutton Ranch crossover a structural inevitability. The question every fan is now focused on is when Season 2 actually arrives. Fall 2026 has been confirmed by CBS, with Luke Grimes also revealing that Season 2 will run 18 to 20 episodes against Season 1's 13-episode order, making this the most substantial storytelling canvas Marshals has ever had to work with. Filming began in late May 2026 under Logan Marshall Green's confirmation to Screen Rant, and the production schedule puts a fall premiere comfortably within reach. The expanded episode order is the clearest possible signal that CBS considers Marshals a flagship rather than a spin-off, and that the creative team has the room to develop every thread the Season 1 finale installed without the compression that made certain Season 1 storylines feel rushed. Based on everything the production calendar and the trailer have confirmed, Marshals Season 2 is going to be the most ambitious chapter the Yellowstone Universe has attempted on broadcast television. Now the conversation moves to the fans, and there are 3 debates the trailer has ignited that are splitting the Marshals community cleanly down the middle. First, did Dolly know anything at all about her father's operation? And does the trailer's image of her held at gunpoint represent her becoming Tom's leverage against Kayce, or Tom eliminating a liability who knows too much and whose relationship with Kayce has become inconvenient? Second, does Cal survive the ambush at full capacity, or does the combination of the gunfight wounds and his cancer diagnosis mean that Season 2 is building toward a farewell for Logan Marshall Green's character at some point in its 18 to 20 episode run? And does Pete Calvin's death, if it happens, push Kayce permanently past any version of lawful restraint? And third, does the Dutton Ranch and Marshals crossover happen inside Season 2, or is it being held as the event that bridges both shows into a shared Season 3? And if Kayce and Beth are both in Texas at the same time looking for their sons, does that reunion between Kayce and his sister produce something the Yellowstone Universe has never quite managed to show before? The video on screen covers every other thread fans need to track before Marshals Season 2 premieres on CBS this fall.